This episode of Storytellers is brought to you by these fine companies.
This is Tom the Mongoose Mcewen. You're watching Storytellers at Competition Plus TV. Did Ivo tell you all about that?
No.
How bad it was with him and Perdome?
Oh
man, it got to the point where I thought somebody was going to get killed. It was bad. Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Back in the day, with the nicknames and everything, when everybody was barnstorming and racing around the country, and the Lions and back east and all that kind of stuff, you know. Tommy Ivo was a real showman. He was one of the guys started out early in the day with us. And he had Don Perdome working. Perdome got his start working for Ivo. And then he bought a little dragster, a little 440 chassis research with a little, I believe it had a little injected Buick in it, and a little 88-inch wheelbase car. And he started driving that car, and then we were all racing, and he was driving for different people. Well, anyway, Ivo and Perdome kind of had a little thing going where Perdome used to work for Ivo, and they would kid him about it. So they had a little world war going on between the two of them. And, you know, a lot of people thought it was just kind of a funny, didn't mean much. But to those guys, it got a little bit personal, I think, later on. And I can remember times when, in the early days, they were doing pranks on one another. And Ivo would go over to Perdome's house, throw a cherry bomb in the window of his house, or we were up at Fremont one time racing, and Ivo was there. And Ivo's one of these guys, he's like a vampire. He sleeps all day, and he's up at night. And he carries these army blankets around to cover the windows of the hotel with, and he has these fans, and he rocks himself back and forth in his bed 500 times till he passes out. That's how he goes to sleep at night. So Ivo's up there, and we're up at Fremont racing. And Ivo's asleep in this little hotel over by the track behind this gas station. And Tom McCurry, a good friend of ours who's no longer with us, McCurry and Perdome and McCurry, they go to this gas station. And you know those old gas stations used to have those big, old nasty buckets of oil out in back of the gas stations where they drained your cars and all. Not like today. They get a 5-gallon bucket of this oil. They get a pillow with feathers in it, put it in there, and they go over to Ivo's room. And they kick the door open in the middle of the night. Ivo sits up in bed, and they throw the oil and the feathers on him, ruin the room, cause this big thing. Cops come. The cops almost don't let them race the next day. They had to all pay for the damages. I mean, it was bad, and that was lightweight. And later on, when they were racing, it got to the point where Ivo used to carry a gun in the seat of his car for protection if he raced Perdome, because Perdome was going to beat him up at the end of the track. And so Ivo hired Tarzan as a bodyguard. And one time we were at Illinois racing, and Ivo and Perdome jumps on him out in the gravel, and we had to go pull him off out there. So that was a rivalry. They kind of talk to each other now, but I don't really think they like each other for whatever over the years. So that's a rivalry that a lot of people didn't know about. We were... 1972, Ivo and I were invited to Hawaii to the opening of their drag strip over there, and to the dragsters. And we were over there staying in this big high-rise hotel. And Ivo's a real trickster guy. And in those days, I used to carry this blanket, and they called it my Yangi. You know, the kids have little blankets. I had a little pillow that I carried around with me that had a silk pillowcase on it, and I used to sleep with that. And they all thought that was real funny. And Ivo was in a couple of rooms down in the hotel, and Ivo used to carry his blankets, and he used to have certain foods that he would bring and all that, and he didn't want anybody in his room. So the first night we're there, Ivo slips back to the hotel during the daytime, and somehow he gets into my room, and he takes the clock radio, which is like a breakfast alarm, you know, wake-up thing, and he goes up into the ceiling and wires it into the ceiling, so when it goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can't get to it to shut it off. He thought that was really funny, see? So 2 days later, we go to his room while he's not there, and we go into his room and we take everything he owned, pillows, pajamas, cereal, put it in the bathtub and fill it full of water, and he comes home and that's what happens. And then he steals my pillow out of my room the next day and goes to the post office and he mails it back to the Goodyear racing team, and they thought that was like they had a bounty on this thing. They thought that was really funny. So I grabbed Ivo and drug him out on the Paris. We're about on the 12th floor and hung him upside down. I was going to drop him because I was so pissed off. So there was a lot of that happened over the years that people don't know about.